So we live in a multi-sector society. So it's not just the church as a formal institution that's going to transform culture. It is business, it is government,
Yes.
it is all of these sectors, media, and whatever sector we don't have a voice in, whatever sector we don't have leadership in, we're in essence turning that sector over to a non-Christian worldview. And so I think the church needs to have a broader vision of discipleship.
Yeah.
Church is the conscience of culture. We make sure that culture understands its higher moral calling, but business is the creator of culture. They look at market conditions and they assess needs and desires and wants, and in an anticipatory way, they create products, goods, and services that actually bring to life what's in our hearts and our imaginations. And so I think that business has an ability to create what church has the opportunity to keep on the good conscience track of morality, and what government has the ability to curate and protect. And if they work together in complementary ways like that, then our societies flourish.
That's brilliantly said. And I would say if someone is wondering if business actually does change the culture, I would ask them to reflect on the 5,000 ads they take in every day, and remind them that 4,900 of them come from businesses that are directly speaking into their lives about what their identity should be, what they should desire, what the good life looks like. All of these really large philosophical questions that businesses are trying to answer on a daily basis. And if we don't believe that businesses have an agenda with us, we're greatly mistaken. So if we say, oh, well, we should go into a different sphere to shape the imagination of the culture, we're missing the dominant messages that come to us. We have to get in that game. When we talk about the entrepreneur and their role in shaping culture, and we think, first of all, it really matters who that entrepreneur is, what their vision for the world is. They're starting as equivalently a mustard seed with this idea that most people say won't work. It grows. It starts to shape the organizations. It starts to shape the employees, who's around them. And then as those employees go about doing their work with that organization's mission and vision, that starts to shape the stakeholders around them. It shapes the vendors that they work with, it shapes the places they buy ads, it shapes the supply chain that they work with. And then as those different things come to life through stakeholders, we think industry best practices start to change, right? People engage with companies in different ways. They have different norms. And then as those norms go, as those industries change, that's where I think the culture actually starts to take on a different form. A very simple example that we can all relate to probably is Whole Foods. We talk about this, started in 1979. So if we can imagine 37 years ago, John Mackey and a group of about 20 hippies started something called Saferway. That was a critique at Safeway. They said, this is plastic food. Maybe it has some purpose in the culture, but we find a different way forward. Now, here we are today, and there's none of us who would say that Whole Foods has not shaped the culture's imagination of what food looks like in many, many good ways. They've challenged us to eat better, be healthier. They've changed the supply chains of food in dramatic ways, and I think John Mackey has there's a lot of positive things about that place, and they've kind of brought conscious capitalism onto the map.
So I think that Christian business leaders and Christian ministers should be countercultural. We should be countercultural, and I think as we talk about bringing this love ethic to bear on our work, that is so immensely countercultural. And let's be honest, it is complex, and it is very hard to go out and recognize that you're in a hostile environment, but you can't play by those rules. And I think this is, again, where the pastor and the business leader can have a great friendship, studying the Word of God together and saying, how do we work this out, not only theologically, but in practice? And I think that helps. I know for me, it's helped to shape my preaching in a way that recognizes that these ethics are not lived out in a vacuum, but they are so deeply countercultural. That's why they're so difficult, but that's why they're so life transforming if we can incorporate them and have some mastery of it.